Alright, well, on today's episode of How To, we're going to be installing an inverter. The moorings charter boats don't come with inverters, a lot of them do, but I don't necessarily agree with Leopard's inverter design, and so we're going to rewire the boat a little smarter so that should the batteries go down low, the generator will fire itself. An automatic transfer switch will switch the power over to the inverter charger, which will recharge the batteries automatically and provide house power to the boat while we're sleeping should we be on the hook, and it'll all do it seamlessly. When the batteries top off, the generator will shut itself back down. At least that's the theory. So basically the way that's going to work, and you gotta kind of look at my hen scratch here, but this is what we have, which is basically two 30 amp cords coming in, going out, running through a transfer switch here, or what I like to call a jump over, and this would be it with a transfer switch, two lines and a generator, and then this is it if you just look at this with the generator, house line, transfer switch, inverter, and then our solar will go through a solar charge controller into our batteries, and then our batteries feed our inverter. So come with me and I'll show you what we're doing here. So for this install, I have chosen to install a Magnesign Magnum. This is a 36 to 46 volt inverter, which we will run on lithium ion batteries, which are upstairs. I'll show you those in a minute. Quick thing, right down here, this would be a separate thing. I glassed in a shelf, and the shelf's pretty bulletproof, but that's where our inverter's gonna go. Our batteries are right up here, and the wire, you can't see that. Oh. The batteries are right up here, and we'll get to that, and then the power cable's right back behind you there. So, moving back to the power center, this is our inverter, this is our transfer switch box. So basically the way it's going to work is our generator is going to come into here, our shore power cords are going to come into here, and these are going to come out of the line out, in to the Magnum inverter back there, back to the Magnum, back from the Magnum inverter, and back into our AC house lines. So basically we're going to be disconnecting the shore power and generator, moving them into the transfer switch, running down the chaseway into the inverter, and turning around and coming right back and coming up to here. Now the reason we put the inverter about midway was to minimize our wire runs both to our battery and to our house panel. The more wire, the more voltage drop, the less efficient. So we split the difference, and that's why, and that was actually the only spot I could stuff a Magnum inverter. So on the battery end of things, basically we're going to be running on these lithium ion 5S batteries that I'm not sure what they're out of. We bought them at a surplus. They work really well. Their voltages are awesome. They have air cooling chambers on them, but I don't think we're going to use that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put these lithium ions in here right next to the AC unit, which draws air down through here, and that's going to keep them cool. Lithium ions do not like the heat, especially when they're charging. That's where most of your lithium ion issues have come in, because people have a tendency to drain their laptop all the way down and then plug it in immediately, and a lot of times they'll buy bigger chargers than what they need, and that's when your lithium ion battery decides to go. But we're going to have a total redundant backup system. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running 4 separate banks of the lithium ions, and they're going to be stacked in 3s to get up to somewhere around the 60 volt range, and then they'll cut out at about 48 volts, which is what our Magnum inverter runs on. We've mounted our Magnum inverter programming or head unit up there. We're going to use these 50 amp circuit breakers for each individual incoming set of 3 lithium ion banks. Come into each one of these breakers, from the breakers into the battery switch, from the battery switch over to a combiner, combiners back up here, and they will combine into the single fuse, which will go down to the inverter. So basically, if we have one bank go bad, these breakers will trip. If we have something that happens on the back side, this breaker will throw. And then we're going to use these little tattletales, which are basically, remember the old thermometers that you put across your head? Well, that's similar to these. We're going to mount these on each individual battery so that we can watch temperature ranges on the batteries. Battery management systems. A lot of people say you need them. A lot of people say you don't. It depends on who you talk to. We are going to go on with a conservative. We've bought very conservative lithium batteries. There's a whole spectrum I can show you here of lithium ion versus cobalt versus magnesium versus you know, on how safe they are, how well they charge, how well they take heat. But we've gone with these because these are the best all-around lithium, cobalt, magnesiums. They're the safest battery to have, and they have no off-gassing, and they are in these stainless steel housings, so supposedly they can't explode. But before any of that would happen, one of our safety features would kick in, knock everything off, and stop charging or stop draining of the battery. So that's about it. So, after about 4 hours worth of work, I have set up the battery system. We'll get it mounted in there in just a second, as soon as we get the wires run down behind and down to the inverter. But basically that's 4 banks coming in, and then the positive and negative going over to the inverter. Alright, well, I have 3 of the 4 banks in, which I think will be plenty to do some testing purposes. Basically, we've got trip fuses on each battery bank. Each battery bank consists of 3 batteries totaling 63 volts at the top. We have our disconnects in case we have an issue with one of them. We also have our master fuse and our battery management system. I don't know if you can see that up in there. We've also run a dedicated Cat 5 back to the main panel, where we will have individual battery bank monitoring. So here we are at the main battery bank, and we've installed our Magnum control head or remote. We've programmed it, and 63 volts is full. Right now it's doing, it'll take it up to about 63.2 in a float charge, and then it'll go into standby mode and it'll just wait. I've run all 3 ACs on the unit, and it barely drained anything out. I didn't run it long enough to do any heat testing, but we'll do that at a later date. As you can see, the blue Cat 5 wire here, I brought it up. It's going to come through here and it'll go to the gauges. This is our network that we've run down to the inverter that controls our automatic generator start, which basically our AGS will, should the batteries drop below a certain voltage, it will automatically turn on the northern lights by using the controllers for the generator, which are usually right here, and we're going to tie into those, and it will automatically start the battery. It will automatically start the generator if the batteries drop below 55 volts. And we won't even know that we lost power, because the transfer switch down below that we installed earlier will seamlessly, within 0.3 of a millisecond, switch everything over and keep everything running. And then the battery chargers will obviously go ahead and start charging the lithium ions. Well, that's our quick update. We'll get back to you when it's all wrapped up. So as you can see, you don't have to spend $20K to put in a lithium-ion inverter system like some other folks have done. You might be wondering how it worked out. We took a 4-day sail down to Key Largo and back up into Coconut Grove, and during the 4 days the generator came on one time at about 5 o'clock in the morning when we had 2 of the AC units running through the night, and it started up seamlessly, charged the batteries up. By the time I got up a couple hours later, the generator was shutting itself down, and the generator did not come back on for the next 3 days. Of course, the front had come through and things had cooled off, so we didn't need the AC unit. But however, we did use the inverter to charge the 12-volt house batteries to keep things running for those 3 days, and used all the normal AC appliances on the boat. So we're very happy with the install, and we'll see how she does on the heat tests during the summer.
Space between where smiling high is where you'll find me if I get to go.